Holt.
Yo.
Something strikes me about this this appearance you've got today.
Is it because I brought back the word yo? I'm trying to bring it back into fashion.
You're trying to bring yo back
in the happy days. Yeah, man. Yo.
One of your personal missions. What is keeping you sane through lockdown? If indeed you are still sane through lockdown.
Well, firstly, just a Crux cast fashion tip. I know that it's really important to you that your guests are immaculately turned out because I've watched all the previous episodes. And what I've noticed is there's a common theme around people having lost their iron and that kind of thing. So I thought that I would wear my my debt collection hat. This is the hat I wear when I've got difficult phone calls to make.
Right.
And it just allows me to laugh at myself before I have to phone someone up and tell them they owe me money or I owe them money and I'm not paying or whatever.
I just thought you were channeling your inner Pharrell Williams or Keith Lemon.
No. I'll take it off if you like. It's my hair it's the COVID cut. It's not been cut for a while. My barber, Fatos, is an Albanian chap and he's disappeared to West Hill or wherever Albanians go when COVID-19 strikes. So I've not been able to get my hair cut for a couple of months.
There are many things that I'm going to be able to join in the conversation with on this Cruxcast, but hairstyle is not one of them, I'm afraid.
No, yeah, sorry.
Can't help you. Can't help you. I have nothing.
But hold on, you asked what was keeping me sane.
What is keeping you sane?
Want to hear me witter on. I'll tell you, I've got a couple of quick wins that I've had over the last month or two. One of them is the Wim Hof app. And it's that, if you haven't heard of him, the Iceman, check him out. There's a great documentary. It's Vice do a documentary on him. Yep. But the app, it's free, and he teaches you the basics of breath work. So basically holding your breath. But his
breathing work is incredible, right?
Yeah, it's awesome. So the breathing and the cold showers. Sounds awful.
Yep.
It's a real revelation how quickly it can adjust your mood, though. I find anyway, because I get really down. And it can just lift your mood in a way that something like alcohol genuinely doesn't. I know it's tempting to knock back a couple of G&Ts when you're feeling stressed, but you do 5 minutes of Wim Hof breathing and the cold shower thing for like 30 seconds. Holy shit, man, it's such a change. So that's one thing that's been a real quick win for me that I've discovered during lockdown. And the other one, what's it called? Zero. The app is called Zero, and it's an intermittent fasting app. So again, it's not about starving yourself. For me, I usually just do the 16-hour fast. So basically, you sort of cheat because you do the overnight. You sleep overnight, of course. Say you have your tea at, 8 p.m. or whatever. And so then you wouldn't eat again until, 12 or whatever it is the next day. So it's no big deal. Really, you're just skipping your breakfast and you're still having fluids. But I find I get a real kind of mental clarity. And there's something about the accountability loop that the app gives you, a bit like a coach, but free.
3 days a week, or are you doing that?
Kind of whenever I feel like it. I was saying to you before you started recording, I've got freedom issues, as my wife says.
I will not be chained down.
That doesn't mean I cheat on my wife, in case she's watching this. What it means is I have an obsession with freedom. And so structures and rules and having a boss, as a couple of people that have been my boss over the years could tell you, Eric, it's just not my bag, man. So partly it's, I think, being brought up as a hippie. And if you want that story, then watch my TEDx talk from 2012. I won't bore you all with it just now. Partly through being brought up as a hippie on a croft and just getting unbelievable amounts of freedom.
Yep.
And I guess it's developed over the years so that I'm kind of a free expression extremist. And my whole kind of purpose is to help you or whatever client is in front of me to express themselves, to sell themselves, to sell their ideas, to sell kind of the best version of them, I guess. So yeah, that's me, man. I'll take a drink of my lemon-infused water. Have you ever had kidney stones?
No, and I don't want them. Thank you very much.
Well, it's George Booth, who a lot of people who see this will probably know. George is an ex-BD guy, very successful chap, lives in Houston now, but from the Northeast. And he told me that kidney stones are the closest a man can get to giving birth.
No, thank you.
Because the stone comes out of you. Well, I gave birth at Aberdeen Airport in the car park. On the way back from Boston, I birthed a stone. And the pain is it's exquisite, Eric.
Did you think
anyway, my point is, lemon juice in the water. stops you getting kidney stones. Sounds like an old wives' tale, but it works. I've not had kidney stones since I started drinking lemon juice in water regularly.
Just a little squeeze,
like a couple of pints
raw
a day.
lemon. Yep, in the water.
Either raw lemon or just Jif lemon or whatever your brand, Tesco lemon juice, whatever.
So I think before we get into this, I'm speaking to lots of people that are locked in the dark place. It's all about just fighting fires. And I spoke to a guy yesterday who was just head in the hands. I think you're absolutely right. Doing that little thing, the Wim Hof breathing, whatever it might be. I've decided after 30 years, in fact, 35 years of playing guitar, and I'm still no better than the day I picked it up. I don't know any chords. I don't know. So I've decided that this is with me all the time, and I've decided to learn. I don't know why. I just put on iTunes the other day, and David Bowie's Live Lounge thing was there from when he was still alive, and I've decided that I'm going to immaculately play The Man Who Sold the World. So I'm driving my wife absolutely mental right now. She comes through and she's like, seriously? It just goes on and on and on. But I'm doing that. I've got an Instagram page where I put up my work, never sold a piece, can't sell the pieces. Abstract expression art. Amazing just to get a canvas and just don't have a plan and just start with colours and stuff like that.
Can I see some? Have you got anything there you can hold up, or where can I see it?
I could. There's
a site?
There's one there.
The colourful one above the TV.
The colourful one above the TV. There's one right above the computer, which is right here.
How much would one of those set me back? The one above the TV? Nothing.
I've got 100 pieces of art in storage and I can't sell them. That's another podcast on why I've got separation issues with my art, because the value's internal, not external. It's a weird thing. Yeah. My wife looks at me and goes, you can sell them for a couple of hundred quid a pop. And I'm like, I can't do it. No. They're all in storage.
Well, that probably is a whole nother conversation. I'd love to explore that with you from a coaching point of view. But anyway, let's take that offline and talk about that one. That would be great.
If you want to,
you were talking about.
Carry on.
Sorry, go on.
No, go on.
I was going to say, it reminded me what you were talking about in terms of the guitar and the art. It reminded me of, I guess, my favorite book, which I'll bring up in a second. But the idea that what you seem to be doing is creating purpose for yourself in what could otherwise be challenging times, difficult times, distracted times, whatever. By the way, speaking of distraction, I've noticed my laptop is shaking. I've got it on my knees, set up on a Bose headset box. And I thought it was lovely. I thought this angle is going to be beautiful for eye contact with Eric. And everyone knows eye contact matters. And then I've realized that every time I laugh, which is rather a lot, it shakes.
That's all right.
Like that, you can see it naked. So if the Cruxcast viewers can handle it, I'm going to keep it because I like the eye line. Is that all right?
Keep it.
All right, so what you're doing is you're creating purpose, and it reminded me of Man's Search for Meaning, which is a effing amazing book. It was written by an Austrian psychiatrist. Have you read it?
Never. I will do. I get
amazing
notes on these.
Man's Search for Meaning. So Viktor Frankl was an Austrian psychiatrist in Nazi Germany, basically, in the end, Weimar Republic, then Nazi Germany. And he was a Jew. And him and his family ended up in a concentration camp. And he survived, of course, because he wrote the book, Man's Search for Meaning. Sadly, spoiler alert, his family did not survive. But
Right.
He talks about the whole kind of basis of the book and the idea, logo therapy, does he call it? Meaning therapy, is that if you can find a strong enough why, like a strong enough reason to whatever, live in his case, then you can live with any circumstance. Like the human being is unbelievably resilient. So he found the purpose of, for one of the things was he worked in the camp, we call it a hospital. I mean, I don't think it was a hospital by a standard we would know it as, but despite the fact that his whole family get obliterated, gassed, it's just appalling. But the book is unbelievably uplifting, actually. And the lesson from it is what you just said. It's to find purpose.
Yep.
Now, it could be the tiniest thing. If you're stuck in a cell, maybe you find purpose by walking around it, by composing poetry in your head, by doing press-ups. I mean, I don't know. You do whatever you do in the circumstance. But for me, in this COVID time, what I've been encouraging clients to do, and potential clients and just people I meet, is to write your own story, if you like. Write your own COVID-19 story. So I'll give you a couple of examles, if with permission. I
Yeah,
don't want to
yeah,
sound like
absolutely.
I'm on a tear here. If you want to ask
Tear
anything,
away,
do.
tear away.
Well, there's a couple I've got running personally. So just to give you an example, one is with a guy I met online via LinkedIn, who's a tech and AI genius, Finnish guy based in the US, and we started conversing about COVID-19 and the situation, and it turned out that he had a prototype of a UV sterilizer box that his wife had encouraged him to build, because he's, as I say, an AI genius with history doing such things. And we kind of worked it, and I challenged him, and we pushed it in terms of what his story could be after COVID. And we realized, well, between us, that this thing should be rolled out, and we've now kind of built a team, including other scientists, financial people, etc. And we've applied for innovation funding. Now, is this going to happen? Are we going to end up with a sterilizing unit that can be commercially dispatched, sold, and delivered to hospital settings, care homes? I mean, that's what we're aiming at. But even if we didn't, Eric, even if it went to hell in a handbasket, he's still got this genuine story of during COVID how he really tried to put this thing together. Now, I wouldn't bet against us pulling it off because of who's in the team, but it's about creating that story. So a more simple example could be, well, are you putting up a post on LinkedIn saying, well, I've been made redundant because of COVID-19? Okay, fine, that's a start, but that's kind of an ask, isn't it? It's kind of a subtle, anyone got any jobs? So what's next? How can you do something more purposeful? Now, I'm not being a wise guy. I know it's hard to be unemployed. I've been unemployed.
Yep.
Yeah, I know it's a horrific situation and can really kick your self-confidence right in the nuts. But what is the value that you can give out? Now, it could be something in real life, just doing stuff for your neighbors or something, or it could be something in terms of your previous experience and sharing on LinkedIn or social. Now, I'm not going to try and explore all the different ways, but it's that guitar thing you're talking about. What did you do during COVID? Wow, I learned to play this. Bow, and and you break into the song. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
So much better than just having to say, "Well, I just sat there and felt down and drank a lot of wine."
Yeah, I know exactly. The thing that inspires me is, okay, you can criticize these programs as much as you like, but things like Masterchef is a great example of, here's John. He's a telesales coordinator from Cleethorpes, and it turns out that John has got locked away inside him with a wee bit of pushing and a wee bit of stress and a wee bit of the right people around him, is a Michelin star level chef. Mm-hmm. So things like that, if you explode that around the world, how many Johns are there sitting at desks with headsets on or typing code in computers or whatever it is that they do, that have got something amazing to give the world?
Yeah,
I find that fascinating.
So right. You are so right. I was actually, so I'll give you a wee example. Just a young lady, 17 years old, was sent to me by a charity that I'd done some pro bono stuff for. And they said she's got clinical level anxiety when she's dealing with adults. Right. Because her sibling had been involved long-term in the hospital system, had been mega, really sick. And so naturally the family's priorities had skewed towards the sibling. And so this young lady she was in a tough place. So as they said, clinical level anxiety, but she really wanted to get into teacher training school. Now that's competitive, right? It's like only 1 in 8 get in. So you have to do a panel interview, including a presentation to adults, of course. And she's got this extreme anxiety around adults. So we worked together over a couple of months, and really it's not magic. What I'm doing is I'm trying to get her to a place, because of getting her to relay her stories of how she really has worked with little kids and what she gets out of it and what they get out of it and what the lessons she's learned are. She came to a place where she realized, well, I'm already a great teacher. Like, kids love me. I love kids. I'm all about this.
I'm doing it now.
F-U-C-K, the adults in the room, like, so what? I just need to share with them what I've shared with Thor. And she did. And, long story short, she got into the college of her choice, not just any teacher training college. And that's where the job satisfaction comes from for me, Eric. And to me, I guess it's kind of like story self-rehab. Like, you're taking your choice of story, make that the substance, heroin or whatever, and you're just making a healthier choice. It's the same you're just making a choice to consume a different self story. And we've all got cool stuff we've done, no matter what a-holes we might be.
Yeah.
You know, I've worked with guys in rehab because I used to be a trustee of a rehab. I've worked with guys in prison. I've worked with all kinds of badasses, and they've all got some good shit inside them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's bringing that out and getting them to make that self-story choice, if you like. I know it starts to sound a bit metaphysical and BS-y, but it's not. It's actually really practical. It's truly practical, because it's always a choice. Which story are you going to live? Which story are you going to have to tell?
Yeah.
It's a choice.
What I'm interested in how you got here. So you help people, right? Regardless of their situation, right? You help people, you help those with mental issues, you help executives, you help people that are looking for jobs. What age are you, Thor?
Oh, steady.
No.
46.
Right,
you're
46. So it's an interesting career path that you've had, but at what point did you turn around and say, I want to help people? This is what I want to do with my life. How do you make that?
Dear.
What were you doing first that got you into that? I'm interested in the bridge.
I'm not sure I've ever turned around and said, I want to help people. I think more relevant is the realization of how good it felt to truly listen to someone.
Right.
Because it's the listening that unpacks and allows the client or the person to unpack and realize how cool they are, or how cool they could be, or how useful they are or could be. So it's the power of listening. And this is a weird one. So any of my old mates watching who knew me back in my 20s would know that. Well, I'll just rewind. So as a youngster, I always thought I would join the Marines or the Army or something. I thought I was soldier boy. Now it turns out I would have been a shit soldier, because I've got these freedom issues. I would have wanted to shoot who I wanted to shoot, not who I was told to shoot. I just would have been awful. And I was, to be honest, I think I'm a bit of a pussy too. I think I would have got homesick, and I just wouldn't have been a good soldier. But I did pass, failed the first time, passed the second time, something called the POC, Potential Officer Course, with the Marines down in Devon. And that was, it was interesting, because they said to me, well, we'll let you in, but you need to join whatever the next intake was. And I wanted to get the university scholarship, and I wasn't good enough for that. Simple terms. So by the time I finished university, I elected to go to university. By the time I finished uni, my eyesight had failed. Too many nights out with contact lenses or something, I don't know. But my eyesight had failed to such an extent that I wasn't going to get in. So I had basically an early midlife crisis. I'm like, I don't know, 20, 21. Yeah. What the hell am I going to do? And I didn't want to go back to Shetland, because that felt like a failure. So I went to Aberdeen, because my brother worked offshore for Shell, had a flat in Ferryhill, and I could just live with him. I had $5,000 saved up. I thought, well, I'll just go to the gym, train, just hang out, go out partying, try and pull girls as you do when you're 20. So happy days, I thought. But after a few weeks, I started feeling a little purposeless. And also, my brother said to me, hey, I've paid tax for years working offshore, making tons of money. You go and sign on. And I'm like, sign on? What do you mean? And he says, you go and sign on the dole. I was like, okay. I didn't really know how to do that. It's not something that had been in my mind. So I went, found the job center or whatever it was called in those days, and I did sign on. And I'll tell you what, mate, 2 weeks in, I just thought, I can't do this. No. I just felt so down. So I really do know how people feel when they don't have work, purposeful work. So I just, at that stage, I just stopped signing on, and I thought, I'm just going to take whatever job I can find. So I started looking through the P&J, because it was back in the day when newspapers were way more the way you would find a job. Yeah. And I saw this advertisement for door security turned out to be at the Aberdeen Student Union. And I went along and applied and went through their selection process, and it was something called Option 1 security, and it was the early days of when some door companies were starting to train people. So we had training from some ex-army guy, and we did all kinds of things, first aid and blah, blah, blah. And what I found is it felt really purposeful, because you were looking after people, which I seemed to quite enjoy. And of course, you'd get some fights, which is ideal for a 20-year-old guy who's into martial arts and weight training and things, as I was at the time.
Win-win.
So what could be better? It was a win-win. And there was the girl side. So there was all kinds of good things going on with that job. But genuinely, in the years that I worked on the door, my major lesson, and probably the reason I never got done, when most of my mates eventually did get done for assault in various ways, is because I learned the power of diplomacy. And what I mean by that is listening. Now, of course, sometimes you need to choke somebody out or throw them through a door because it's gone too far for diplomacy. But there's so many occasions, Eric, when listening and just hearing someone out for a few extra seconds is all it takes, and you can defuse it. And that, to me, that's like the base of everything I've ever done after that has been listening. Because I remember as a personal trainer back in the days when there were only a handful of us, I used to be a PT, and I used to ask clients, why do you stay with me so long? Like, some people wouldn't do the food thing, so they'd end up big as a house. You know, they're getting fatter and fatter. They keep coming back. They're paying me a mortgage a month, basically, to keep training with me. I said, what the hell's going on? I'd just front up to them. What are you doing? In different ways, they would basically say, well, you listen to me. You seem to give a shit. You seem to care. And it's just listening.
Well,
so that's what I do. And I guess that's the kind of backbone of what I do. And of course, I've got processes and systems and ways of helping people to achieve various things. But underneath it, that's what it is.
All of these Crux casts have got a little in inverted commas title. Sometimes you need to choke someone out or throw them through a door. Might be the title for this one.
We should maybe edit that bit out, because someone who got choked out by me years ago will be.
Yeah.
I got fired from Bexbar and Amadeus.
Classic.
It's a long story, but it's not for actually battering people, but for being a little too on edge, let's just say. There was one guy in Bexbar who he basically had his cap on, and you had a rule you couldn't wear a cap in Bex, and it was because of the security cameras. So me being me, I went up to him the first time. I explained impeccably polite, excuse me, sir, do you know about the rule in here? Blah, blah, blah. You know, you mustn't wear a cap because we've got a security camera. Anyway, all rational. And he was like, oh, yeah, no bother, mate. I no bother. So he took his cap off, put it on the bar. Anyway, 2 minutes later, he's got his cap on again. And he's looking at me just like, fuck you, dickhead. So I was like, one more chance. So I went over, Mr. Diplomacy. Look, mate, you know, you're obviously taking the mick now. Do you want to just take your cap off? You know why I asked you to take it off. I no bother, mate. Yeah, sorry. Takes the cap off. 10 minutes later, I looks over and he's literally just staring right at me with his cap on. So he's evidently mistaken my politeness for inability to take action.
React, yes.
So at this point, I'm like, okay, he's now a security risk. So I just went over, says, up you get. And he's like, nah. So I just gently locked him up, took him to the door, shoved him out the door. But as he went out the door, I took his cap and flew it Frisbee style across the street, which I think is legit. However, the then owner of the premises happened to be right outside the door and witnessed his doorman shunting said punter in the street and frisbeeing his cap. And he felt that was a bridge too far.
Perhaps.
So there we go. The good old days.
Trolling through your internet footprint that you have, I noticed something that I'm hoping is an interesting story, because for those of us who have no concept of what this is, I hope it is an interesting story. MIT.
Well, yeah, it might be. I mean, that was a strange one. I ended up there because just full disclosure, I never worked there as such. I wasn't a paid employee of MIT. What happened is I had a pitch project with an oil and gas guy from Wyoming, middle of nowhere. And we decided we would meet midway between Wyoming and Aberdeen, which turns out not to be in the middle of the Atlantic. It's basically the eastern seaboard of the US. It's a big travel for him, 6 hours out of flying, and same for me. So we thought either New York or Boston. We chose Boston. And because I was going to be in Boston, I started thinking, well, what else is in Boston? Because I'm going all the way just to work with this guy on one pitch. Yes, I'm being well paid, but it'd be good to do something useful while I'm there. So I started looking into it and found out that, well, MIT, among other things, was there. And I thought, wow, it'd be great to do a speaking gig at MIT. How can I do that? So I started looking up, try to find out who I knew, who knew someone there. Found out someone, can't remember who it was now, someone at Scottish Institute for Enterprise who I'd done an event for, knew someone in the entrepreneurial, is it Martin Trust Center for Entrepreneurship? And I thought she knew this guy, Bill Owlett, who runs the center. Turns out she didn't really know him. So she was like, oh, I don't really know him. I just was there and was on a course that he led. So I'm not sure I could really do an intro because I don't even have his email. So I went to the site, looked up, found his email, emailed him a pitch. Now, rather a good pitch, if I do say so myself, basically pitching him why I should be allowed to come and speak at MIT. So then I ended up getting put through a series of few interviews, if I remember rightly, like video interviews. And they decided, yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. Fine, come and do a talk. So I went and did a talk for them. And from that, I just struck up a good relationship with them, the team there, and I ended up going back and forth a few times over a couple of years, if I remember rightly, and helping them with some pitching and presentation stuff, some programs they were doing. And on on one of my final visits, Bill Owlett comes into the room, and there's other team members sitting around, and he says, "Thor, my favorite Viking." He says, I'm going to make you an EIR. And I'm just like, WTF? Like, what's an EIR? So the other staff were like looking as if this was some holy, like me being knighted or something. Like they were looking like this was a big deal. So I was kind of like, yeah, thanks very much, Bill. And genuinely, I didn't have a clue what it was. It wasn't until I was in the cab on the way back to the airport, I was looking it up, Googling it, and I was like, EIR, that means entrepreneur in residence. Holy shit, that sounds pretty cool. So I messaged a mate of mine who's a genuine entrepreneur. Like, I don't pretend to be an entrepreneur. A mate of mine who's worth 100 million plus, mega entrepreneur guy, and told him about it. He was like, you fucker. He's like, I've never been offered anything like that. And he was trying to get some kind of gig at Harvard, a similar kind of thing. So it's just an honorary title. And he did it, as far as I remember, he said it was just because of what the input I'd brought. And I've got a lovely recommendation on my LinkedIn from one of the staff there, which people can find if they go and looked at my LinkedIn thing, saying something, I can't remember, just something very positive. So no, it was great fun, and I would have carried on going back. But actually, the last time I was meant to be going there was the kidney stone story I told you offline. I got as far as yeah, exactly. I got as far as London, going to Boston to work.
It wasn't offline. It wasn't offline.
Oh, wasn't it?
No.
Oh, cool. Well, this is the start of the story. I won't tell the end, but basically what happened is I got as far as Heathrow, and I was in so much pain. Like my stomach was in pain, my butthole was in pain, not to be too graphic.
Thanks.
I was in so much pain. I was like, where do you go when your butthole hurts this much that you just want to lie down and die? I mean, the pain was unbelievable, right? Because I'd never had this before. I didn't know what it was. So I did what any good Scotsman would do. I went into a bar and had a pint. I thought, that'll fix this.
Mm-hmm. That'll sort it.
It didn't fix it. The pain was still there. And I thought, I really don't know if I should get on a plane. Like the level of pain I'm in, and I don't know what it is. So I spoke to the gate staff. I was through into the lounge waiting to get on the plane. I explained the pain I was in and just, I don't know what it is. What do you think I should do? And they were like, well, you probably shouldn't get on a plane because we'll have to divert to Greenland or something, just if it gets worse. So I ended up back in Aberdeen. And then by the time I was walking through the car park, as I say, I passed the stone and then the pain went away. But then I knew what it was, I guess. Yeah. So that I basically didn't go because I missed my flight connection. So that was the last time I was meant to be going. So I guess that would have been probably 2014 or something.
Right. Okay. Cool.
So, yeah.
One of the things.
Sorry, anyone who's easily upset with such things, probably somebody passed out with the thought of that.
Just imagining in Aberdeen passing kidney stones. One of the posts you put up recently really rang true with me about, because I know people that are, Zoom's just telling me they've removed the 40-minute time limit on our group meetings.
Yeah, it's given me a thing to tell me that as well.
Must be good. Must be impressed with the content, Thor.
It means we're yabbering on too long.
Yeah, exactly. So just to nip this up then, just your sort of final words. I loved your post on the amount of people, because I know people that are enjoying furlough a little too much and looking upon it as a bit of a kind of wahoo holiday. It's like an extended bank holiday. So your post was, there's no certainty after furlough. And your hope was, I love the positivity. Yes, God willing and all of that, people go back to work and their businesses pick up and everything's great. But there's a possibility that some furloughed people could end up in a bit of trouble. And your point was, use the time now to do what you need to do to, I hate to use the term. In fact, no, I don't hate to use the term, because it talks about exactly what, to enhance your personal brand.
Yeah, right? I don't think I used the word enhance your personal brand, but I would definitely say, if you're sat on furlough right now, unless you happen to be the CFO of the business and know the financials inside out and are keeping an eye on them, I guess my question would be, why would you assume that you're still going to have a job? Now, it's really not being negative, but because I'm saying do something with that. Do something with that thought rather than sit there and worry about it, because there's no point in doing that. Create a purpose, and the purpose would be to make yourself the most employable version of you by the time you end furlough. And if you've still got your job, magic. Well,
Mhm.
what have you wasted? A number of
Nothing.
hours making your CV awesome and learning the best stories about your own value stories, I call them. So challenging times you've been through, difficult circumstances you've dealt with, difficult people, how you dealt with them, and how you either learned a lesson because it failed, or how you created a win with a team or whatever. So that's what you should be doing at least part of the time while you're on furlough. Yeah, of course. Learn to play the guitar, do cool stuff, do stuff for your neighbors, spend time with the family, catch up on the Netflix. But yeah, definitely be ready in case the end of furlough is not as positive as you think. And just on that, I'd just chuck in for any of your viewers, please connect with me on LinkedIn if we're not already connected. Send me a personal message. I'm happy to do a 30-minute career coaching session with you, free of charge. And people get value out of it. I've helped people get actual jobs off the back of just a 30-minute call. It's amazing what will come out of you in 30 minutes with a good listener. I know I'm yabbering on a lot just now, but I genuinely am a really good listener. And yeah, I'd encourage people to just kick that journey off rather than simply sitting there and hammering it in the wine.
I know exactly. Me and Mrs. Doyle have kind of knocked that in the head as well. We've had our majestic wine delivery too many times, so we're back into fitness, nutrition, sleep, and trying to boost our immune systems and all of that good stuff that we should be doing, right?
Well, I didn't want to sound too flirtatious, but I did think you were looking fit, dude.
Hey, do you know what it is? It's just in closing, an absolute we'll come back to how people can get in touch with you in a second. An absolute revelation for me out of this is I've been a gym bunny for years, right? I love working out. Sort of dabbled with it in my early teens, early 20s, fell out of love with it, got fat, got back into it, did some endurance work, and then later in life, in the last couple of years, been really finding the joy in resistance work. I love it, right? So what happens when you can't get to a gym where all the kit is, the squat decks and all of that? So I found a guy, Mark Wildman, training on YouTube. Just incredible. He's a fitness coach and a resistance coach, but with a completely different mindset. Rather than just getting big, let's get mobile and flexible, right? So he uses heavy clubs, which I've never heard of, and kettlebells. I used to think kettlebells were, forgive me for saying this, it's what women used in their classes at the gyms, right? I know it's a terrible thing to say. In my mind, kettlebells are what women use in their little Zumba classes and things like that. I had no concept of what kettlebells were. Sorry, I apologize for this statement in advance and after and during. But when I started looking into it and watched this guy's videos, Mark Wildman, this is during lockdown, ordered a bunch of kettlebells and started watching this guy, going back to the origins of Russian kettlebelling and how it all came about. I think I'm getting more of what I wanted from these 3 kettlebells than I ever got from my gym membership. Honestly, in terms of gain.
Yeah, but why? It's what we were talking about. It's because you opened yourself up to the potential of a different story. Now you know the story of Russian kettlebells and the hard-ass background of it. It's a whole different story to you than that's just the thing the wifeys use. Like, you've sold yourself on a different story. Same Eric, same kettlebells, very different story. Exactly. That's the power of story, man. It is absolutely everything. Really, it is everything. I mean, what are we going to have to look back on in 20, 30, 50 years when we're telling our grandkids or whoever will listen about this time? Well, we've just got the story.
Yeah.
So I know of course it is real, but story matters. Yeah, speaking of the exercise thing, I love what you said about the kettlebells and not always having to be in the gym. I agree. I have got a 40 mil climbing rope in one of the trees out on our land. And it's amazing the workout you can get with the simplest thing. Just a piece of rope that probably cost me 30 quid. Man, you can give yourself just an incredible workout.
The whole body. Yeah, exactly. Listen, on that note, how can people get in touch with you? You mentioned LinkedIn. You have a website, I'm sure, that people can...
Yeah, it's just my name.com, thorholt.com, thorholt.com. Yeah, that's probably the best way, is either through my website, where obviously you've got an inquiry form or whatever, or LinkedIn. Those are the 2 places that is best to get a hold of me. Yeah. And brilliant. I genuinely love to listen to people and see what's going on for people.
Let's end this the way we started it. We need the hat back.
Oh yeah, man.
Perfect. That's going to be the snapshot for this one. Listen, it's been a true pleasure. I loved it. We'll catch up soon, right?
Nice one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.